Hello, welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. So, a recent report broke last night from Deadline, an exclusive in fact, saying that Clive Barker has joined the team of HBO's Hellraiser TV series. If you didn't know, yes, there is a Hellraiser TV series. I'll leave the last update I did above, so please do go and check that out. It'll kind of bring you up to speed, and this is now the update preceding that. But just as a brief recap, there's a Hellraiser TV series made by Roy Lee and Dan Farah. They're producing it alongside now Clive Barker, with Michael Dougherty and Mark Verheiden on board as writers. And then you've got David Gordon Green on board as the director of, at the very least, the first few episodes. But I do know through the grapevine that he wants to direct all of them if he can. So that's just to bring you up to speed. Now, the latest news is that Clive Barker has joined Hellraiser. And I'm a big Hellraiser fan here on this channel. So is Jasper. He's ignoring me. We like a bit of Hellraiser here. I've been doing a 3 times a week series, which I'll leave linked above, the first one anyway, or the last one, whatever. It's just a Boom Comics series of Hellraisers, dramatization I've been doing here, releasing Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So if you like Hellraiser, and you want, an episodic series, check it out. But basically, I want to explore whether this is good news or bad news. Not based on any kind of preconceived notions or anything like that, but looking at current up-to-date works of Clive Barker, because he's not been on top form recently. We've had a resurgence of Clive Barker in media and horror and things like this, but his name unfortunately doesn't carry the weight that it once had. In fact, a lot of people don't even know who he is. Remember, people my age and above, big horror aficionados, they know Clive Barker. They respect Clive Barker. I do respect Clive Barker, but currently, of late, his name doesn't hold any weight at all, and we do have evidence of that. And I don't think his name being attached to the series is anything other than avoidance of the lawsuit that he is doing with, to get the rights back to Hellraiser in the movie sense, because this series for HBO is not linked to any movie reboot or remake that's been happening. And I had it from my source that it wasn't affected, and I think this is why. I think they've made a bargain with him to have him on board as producer, executive producer, in fact, just to get around the lawsuit. I genuinely do. Because if you didn't know, this series has the rights to the Hellbound Heart and the first 2 movies, whereas the movie Reboot has the rights to the movie universe on a whole, I think. It's quite complex, the rights issue, and I know Clive Barker is trying to get them back for whatever reason. But anyway, let's look at the article. We'll dive into it, and then I want to go through some bits and pieces of information. Just kind of have a discussion, really, I guess, on whether it's a good news or bad news. So, this is an exclusive to Deadline. Just in time for Halloween, Clive Barker's back to raise hell during HBO series Hellraiser adaptation, with David Gordon Green directing the early episodes. Now, one thing which just stands out to me immediately is there's only 2 comments here. Now, I know that not a lot of people jump on to these things and comment on that, but 2 comments for what should arguably be a big name, Clive Barker. He's a big, or he should be a big name anyway. It just strikes me as kind of confirming my point that, not a lot of people really know him or care about him anymore in that regard. And that's a shame, and I'm saying it from, that is a true shame, because it is a shame. But anyway, exclusive to Deadline, Clive Barker has joined the executive producing team of HBO's developing series adaptation of his classic horror franchise, Hellraiser. Deadline broke in April that Halloween Helmer David Gordon Green is on board to direct the initial episodes, and the series will be written by Mark Verheiden, who did Battlestar Galactica, but that's actually not his best credit. Like, he has done so many books. Just to have a look, he's massive in the world of Alien and Predator. He's huge. He's really good, actually. He's one of the best things about this. And Michael Dougherty's a huge fan of Hellraiser, so he's a good pick here. Now, Verheiden, apparently, according to Deadline, will be running the show. But that's not strictly true. From what I know, they are joint showrunners on this. They are quite literally joint showrunners, so that's not strictly true unless some changes have happened. They will be executive producers alongside Farah Films, Dan Farah, Ready Player One, and Vertigo Entertainment's Roy Lee, who produced it, and I think he also produced Ready Player One, if I remember rightly. Rough House Pictures partners David Gordon Green, Danny McBride, Jodie Hill, and Brandon James, as well as Panacea's Eric Gardner, Lawrence Cuppin, David Salzman, and Mark Toberoff. Farah Films executive producer or executive Andrew Farah and Adam Salzman will also serve as co-executive producers. So there's a lot of executive producers, but that's not necessarily to say that there's a lot of creative producers. So just remember, like, executive producer doesn't always mean creative producer or creative say. Sometimes it's just money men. Now, based on the Hellraiser horror franchise and Clive Barker's novel The Hellbound Heart, the series is planned as an elevated continuation of the existing Hellraiser mythology, because that is literally, they've said that they want to, they're not putting anything to one side, they're sort of continuing it, but also sort of not. The series is planned as an mythology. The franchise has been a global pop culture phenomenon for over 30 years, and one of the scariest. Aside from 10 films, the franchise has also spawned a book anthology, comic books, and global merchandise apparel. Now, Barker made a statement and said that he was delighted the Hellraiser mythology is seeing a new life. It's time the stories went back to their roots. I'm eager to bring to a new audience the most powerful and ancient elements of horror, the darkest evil invading our human lives, and how we must find in ourselves the power to resist it. Dan Farah chimed in because he was instrumental in bringing Clive Barker back, and he basically said, yeah, Hellraiser started with Clive's imagination, and we couldn't be more excited to have him on board, which, yeah, like, makes perfect sense. But then, like I say, there's only 2 comments. Right? Not great, you know. Will I get disappointed by Barker? You know, all this kind of stuff. And it's interesting because Deadline doesn't show how many times the page has been visited. But when we go to current works by Barker, that's when things start to fall apart. So Books of Blood was, you know, recently done on Hulu. And it didn't do very well. Now, a lot of people will say Rotten Tomatoes isn't a good source. And I hate Rotten Tomatoes. I think it sucks. But it is an aggregator. And one thing it does pretty well is does show audience engagement, at the very least, just randos. You know, randos on the internet. And this, we can also correlate. We compare this with the trailer for Hulu's Books of Blood, which we'll take a look at in a minute, because the views were nothing. The views were absolutely nothing. And for something like this, for that name, Clive Barker, I think it should be a lot more. And that's giving him credit. That's not knocking him. But I just simply think he's a nobody now in terms of people, you know, younger generations knowing who he is. And this wasn't very good. It wasn't well liked at all. 19 and 35. With very little ratings from anyone actually rating it. And the reviews themselves were not very good. You know, Books of Blood doesn't pass the horror test. Barker's books were confettied and assembled by Leaf Blower, along with a few pilfered pages from Jordan Peele. With a certain kind of horror, are laughs as good as you scream, and Books of Blood delivers plenty of the former. So basically, it's not horror; it's a joke. Like that's not a good. That's considered a good review, but that's not a good review. Beyond fleeting moments of graphic violence and nudity, the knife's edge here is actually quite dull. And another good one, a genuinely creepy collection of stories that collide as they snowball down a hill of murder, suicide, and ghosts, ultimately forming into something that you'll be sorry you watched when it's time to turn the lights out. Well, that's a pretty good one, to be fair. But even the only other good one on the first page is not particularly good. And it's only fresh by 4 critics. And like I said, that's not a good barometer. But let's take a look at the Clive Barker's Books of Blood trailer, which is actually a good barometer of interest, of wider interest. I believe so anyway. Now, this trailer dropped a month ago. Well, over a month ago now. And it doesn't even have 1 million views. Doesn't have 10,000 likes. It's not a lot of dislikes. But my point is that the people that were watching it, there's not a lot of them. There's not a lot of people interested at all. You know, it's not it's not particularly great. And, you know, a lot of people were like, oh, I'm hoping this would be a TV series. This would have worked so much better as an anthology. All this kind of stuff. Basically, not a lot of interest. My point is not to say that people thought it was bad. My point is to say that there just wasn't a lot of interest. You know, to have only... I don't really want to... Let's just move it past there. There we go. For God's sake, why is there a dude on the screen each time? Right, there we go. Right, so... 8,019... You know, 819,000. It's not a lot. Clive Barker's name should command a lot more than this. I personally think, anyway. And that's giving him credit, but it sadly doesn't. So, it's not very good, is it, really? And, you know, Books of Blood, IMDb. Again, not a lot of people really watched it. It's a sort of 5.6 out of 10. I wouldn't say that was really good, but, you know, fine, I guess. Metacritic, 42 on Metacritic. Again, that's not particularly good. It's not particularly good at all. So, this here, I firmly believe has been done solely to avoid the lawsuit that is happening. Because he was the producer on Books of Blood. That was something which they teamed up with. But this, he's joined at last minute. Why would you have more people in, you know, to get a slice of the pie? Why would you do that? If not to avoid a lawsuit. So I don't personally think this is, you know, a great bit of news. It's good that it avoids a lawsuit, if my theory is correct. But outside of that, I think it's a bit... It's just an empty gesture. It's, yeah, it's a bit silly. So anyway, let me know your thoughts on this down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear it. Thank you all so much for watching. If you're new here, please do hit subscribe. Please do give this video a like. And please do share it. Take care.